couple of notes before we go on today's show is congratulations to all 9 former BYU athletes that competed at the Paris Olympic Games. There were down moments, none bigger than Jimmer Fredette. Come on, to tear 2 ligaments in your abductor, just the second of what ended up being 7 games for the Team USA 3x3 team that really needed him. They struggled mightily. Just a 2-5 record, failed to advance out of the pool play round for the second straight Olympics. Who knows what Jimmer's career is going to look like from here on out. He's now 35 years old, which is, it's mind-boggling to me because I think if some of you know this, my background with Jimmer Fredette goes all the way back to essentially his origins of the Jimmer legacy at BYU. I was an intern that year that he absolutely erupted onto the national scene. I was interning with Greg Rubel at KSL News Radio, now work back in that building as a member of the KSL Sports Zone staff. But it's crazy to have watched Jimmer's career unfold. A first-round pick, kind of flamed out in all reality in the NBA, goes over to China, becomes what they call the Lonely Master, and scores 70 points on a routine basis, it felt like. But to see his Olympics go the way it went, heartbreaking. Quite simply heartbreaking. And I wish Jimmer nothing but the best as he moves forward here. I think he'd be a marvelous broadcaster. Jimmer is a thoughtful individual. The times I've had a chance to interview him, both in radio and in person, he comes off as a very thoughtful individual who gives, I think, direct attention to things at hand. Goes a long way in the broadcasting realm. Does he decide to continue to play basketball? He was, funny enough, I think some of you saw this, he was named the number 1 3-on-3 basketball player in the world the same day he got injured and was lost for the entirety of the rest of the Olympic Games. Crazy story, and nothing but the best Jimmer as he goes through his rehab process, allegedly a 6-month rehab process. Now, that was the down moment of the Olympics. The top moments, I think you go no bigger than Kenneth Rooks. A guy who has been a legend in the making. Remember, he fell at the Olympic trials a year plus ago, gets up and wins those trials after falling in the steeplechase. Well, then he decides, you know what, we're going to go to the pain zone, and he decides to kick it up a notch in the final lap of the 3,000-meter steeplechase. Ends up losing to the defending Olympic gold medalist in the event. But Kenneth Rooks, the man, the myth, the legend in Provo, is now a silver medalist in the 3,000-meter steeplechase. Congratulations to him. There is only one person in the world better than him at the event he competes in. Think about that. I think a lot of you may understand this, but some of you that don't, college athletes are considered essentially the top 3% of all athletes on earth. It's an incredibly small percentage of what, if you call yourself a collegiate athlete, a group that you're fraternity, so whatever you want to call it, that you enter when you're an athlete of this caliber. It gets even smaller, obviously, in the professional ranks, and even smaller in the Olympics. It's incredible. But Kenneth Rooks, obviously, congratulations to him on a silver medal. Then we had Connor Mantz and Clayton Young, the tandem leading the not leading BYU only, but leading the Team USA marathon team. They both finished in the top 10, and they got major plaudits as both of them crossed. I think it was, Connor finished in 8th place, and then Clayton just, I think, like 30 seconds behind him in 9th place. Both of them turned around and cheered on their fellow competitors from various countries across the globe. How many athletes would have done that? I think very few, but it kind of screamed to what the Olympic spirit is all about. So congratulations to Connor Mantz and Clayton Young. They're top 10 in the world in the marathon. Their former BYU teammate, Rory Linklater, finished 47th in the marathon for Team Canada. So not his best performance, but he told KSL TV after that performance, hopefully it's not my last time at the Olympics in the marathon. It's really, really cool to see these athletes accomplishing everything they accomplished. I mentioned Kenneth Rooks in this 3,000-meter steeplechase. Well, James Corrigan, that incredible story of him finishing 3rd at the Olympic trials and then having to get to a meet to hit the Olympic standard to get into the Olympics. He ends up finishing 31st. He's number 31 in the world in the steeplechase. Courtney Wayment, also in the steeplechase on the women's side of things. She finishes 12th in the world. She is feeling like she may have another opportunity in 2028 in LA to chase this in the steeplechase. James Corrigan, I think he'll have the same goal along with Kenneth Rooks. There is staying power with a bunch of these athletes. I mentioned Jimmer Fredette. Yeah, his time at the Olympics may have come to a close, and it'd be a really, really tough thing to see it go down that way. But then I haven't even mentioned Whitney Orton Morgan, who was a 5th alternate, if I'm not mistaken, to go to the Olympics. And then things happened where she got invited, has to go to the Olympics on relatively short notice, finishes 14th in the world in the 5,000 meters. There's a really, really cool thing about these athletes is that they're representing BYU on the world stage. We talk about BYU and the world is our campus is one of the mottos you see on the signs as you drive into Brigham Young University there in Provo. This is showing that. These athletes went out there to Paris and absolutely showed out on the biggest stage possible. Jimmer Fredette, the former BYU women's basketball player who ended up playing for the Rugby 7 squad, and then Spiff Orton was her name, I think, if I'm not mistaken, who was the Harriman High School product, so another local connection. She ends up winning the bronze for the U.S. with her incredible dash to glory after breaking 2 tackles. The storylines of this Olympics were absolutely incredible. And I'm an Olympics junkie. I freely admit that. I get sucked into them every time they come around, both summer and winter. And I kind of get wistful when they end. But to see 9 former BYU Cougars showing out on the world stage, quite literally in front of the cameras out there, it was awe-inspiring. And I got to say, mad props to all of them. As I mentioned, Kenneth Rooks, Connor Mantz, Clayton Young, they're probably the top performers if you want to go by that metric in terms of the finishing top 10 in the world. In the case of a guy like Kenneth Rooks actually bringing home a silver medal, but it doesn't take anything away from any of the 9 that they were among the world's best overall, best athletes in the world. They went to Paris and they put on a show for all of us out there around the globe. So congratulations to all 9 former Cougars and what they showed there in Paris. And thank you. Just an honest thank you to all of you for putting on for BYU. It can be a lot of those sports. They toil in anonymity. They're out there going to world championship events when it feels like there's tens of people in the stands, whereas they probably were when they were at BYU or watching BYU men's basketball and football get 20,000 and 60,000+ respectively into the stands to cheer on those teams. It's a lot of work to live the dream that only comes around once every 4 years when your Olympic sports are what your passion are. But when you get a chance to do that and you perform the way these athletes performed, props to them. And I'm hopeful. I want to see, I think I would say that Jimmer's probably the only one that I can't see making the next Olympic team, but he'd be 39 at that point. Maybe he still is doing his thing and just hoisting up threes and is still a part of the 3-on-3 scene. Great. If he makes it, great. But I hope to see the other 8 make a run at 2028 in LA. Obviously, you've got to continue to do work. You obviously have to put in the time, the effort, everything that it requires to be an Olympic level athlete. But I, for one, will be there rooting on these Cougars. I won't maybe be there in person, but you can guarantee that I'll be watching, I'll be talking, I'll be writing, hopefully. Who knows what I'll be doing at that point. We're 4 years off from that. But the good news is all these athletes have an opportunity once again in LA, a stone's throw away from Provo, Utah, to go out there and put on for Team USA once again and put on a show for the world. And I, for one, hope they pull it off because it'd be a really, really cool story and many stories overall to track over that will be the 34th Olympiad of the Summer Olympic Games.